tell me if there's any change at all? Now, can you tell me if there's any change at all? Now, can you tell me if there's any change at all? Now, can you tell me if there's any change at all? Now, can you tell me if there's any change at all? Now, can you tell me if there's any change at all? Now, can you tell me if there's any change? Now, can you tell me if there's any change at all? Now.
One of the big breakthroughs was when I was on the air talking about Thomas R., whom I also saw at one point had also been called Leonard K. Apparently somebody heard me on the radio and called Leonard's mother. And I got a letter from Leonard's mother, and it said, "Now I understand. I knew they turned my son into a vegetable," she used that word, "but now I see what it was, what they were doing to him. He's been horribly destroyed since he came back from Boston. He's had multiple hospitalization, chronic patient at the VA."
It wasn't until after his treatment in Boston that Leonard committed his first official act of public violence. After moving across the country to live with his mother in Long Beach, Leonard was arrested a few months later for a fight in a nearby town and wound up undergoing the first psychiatric hospitalization of his life at a California VA. Now hallucinating, delusional, and confused, Leonard was admitted to a lockdown psych ward and placed on heavy doses of psychotropic drugs. Less than a year after being released from Mark and Irvin's Violence Project, the VA declared Leonard 100% disabled.
I flew out to California and I met Leonard. This man who was written up, Violence in the Brain is a Cure Without Side Effects, cured of his violence, who was the star of the story by Crichton called Terminal Man, as sort of the miracles of psychosurgery, except it went awry electronically. This man was on weekend leave at his mother's house. He was lying in bed, and his head was covered with a tent of newspapers. He was in terror. He said, "Doctors from Boston are trying to get my brain." He said, "I'm the most intelligent person in the world. I have an IQ of hundreds, and they're trying to get my brain."
While it is impossible to know what Leonard was really involved in here, it is worth noting that he claimed the experiment he endured specifically involved hooking geniuses up to IBM machines.
It was a post-traumatic brain injury psychosis. Terrorized.
Leonard went from brilliant engineer and gainfully employed husband and father of 6 to a patently deranged, chronically hospitalized, sometimes violent psych ward patient after his treatment in Boston. He never worked again and spent the rest of his life heavily medicated in VA hospitals in both California and Boston. Despite this, doctors Mark and Irvin continued to write journal articles about their great success story, Thomas R.
And by the way, I would find out that Mark Irvin and Sweet knew this. They knew this while they were writing their cure papers. She said he'll wander off and they'll pick him up in an emergency room and he'll say that doctors from Boston have been manipulating my brain and put holes in my head and they wouldn't believe him. They'd call him a paranoid schizophrenic, send him back to the VA.
Leonard was also diagnosed as schizophrenic reaction paranoid type, in large part due to a fantastical story he told with great technical precision about what had been done to his brain in Boston. When he was finally discharged in May 1968, Leonard's records read, "Patients stated that Massachusetts General Hospital were controlling him by creating lesions in his brain tissue by microwave, and that they had placed electrodes in his brain tissue. Stated that they can control him, control his moods, and control his actions. They can turn him up or turn him down. Just like a mechanical toy."